Alright, so as a newbie, I want to learn about pianos. So I got this book. Yeah, Piano Service Tuning and Rebuilding, third edition. A guide for the professional students and the hobbyists. That's me. Alright, so I find the first page. I'm just gonna read it. I'm gonna record it. So for those of you who's for whatever reason interested, you can read along with me, but English is not my first language. It's not my native tongue. I don't know. So it's gonna be pretty unbearable. But here we go. Again, this is it's more for my own record. Chapter 1. Man, I wish I had the voice of Morgan Freeman or something. Chapter 1. Yeah, I can't fake it. Introduction to the piano. Styles, shapes, and size. The piano is unique among keyboard instruments. Only the piano has hammers that strikes tuned strings and rebound away from them, allowing the strings to vibrate and produce sustained musical tone. Each note has an escapement mechanism between the key and its hammer that release the hammer from the key. Okay, I'm looking at through my phone. Where was I? Okay, release the hammer from the key just before the hammer strikes the strings, allowing the hammers to bounce away from the strings. The pianist may play softly or loudly by depressing the key slowly or quickly, thus varying the intensity of the blows of the hammers on the string. Basically saying, like, yeah, if you press harder, it will be louder, I guess. Okay. Antique pianos. I know I sound stupid right now. But that's who I am. I'm ignorant, stupid guy. But yet, somehow getting into the pianos. Alright, I'm gonna butcher that for sure. Bartolomeo Cristofori, 1655 to 1731, built the first practical piano that could be played softly or loudly, with an escapement mechanism for the hammers in the earlier 1700s. The name piano is an abbreviation of Cristofori's original name for the instrument, piano et forte, or soft and loud. Oh, okay. The dramatic expressive capabilities of the piano sets it apart from other keyboard instruments of Cristofori's time, including the harpsichord, in which the mechanism plucks the string, and the clavichord, in which small brass tangents mounted directly on the back ends of the keys touch the strings lightly, producing a very soft, delicate tone. Because of its versatility, the piano has remained popular to this day as the fundamental acoustic keyboard instrument of both home and concert hall. The period beginning with the invention of the piano in the 1700s and ending with the late 1800s saw much experimentation and frequent design change. Early pianos of one maker were radically different from those, move to the side, of another. By the late 1800s, these earlier designs had evolved towards an instrument whose basic features were like those of the modern piano. It is usually today. It is unusual. It is unusual today to find a piano manufactured prior to the 1860s or 1870s outside a museum. Guys, guess what? That happens to no one. Yeah, we recently bought one. I'll show you some other day if you're interested. We're digress. Now, I guess what it was saying is basically there is probably the first mechanism that use a hammer to strike the string. So softer or slower or harder, you will produce different sound instead of some other mechanism, just like a plucking the strings once the mechanism was activated. Okay, Victorian pianos. By the late 1800s, factories were mass producing pianos and retailing them at low enough price that they become affordable to a large portion of the general public. Piano cabinet of this period typically feature fancy carvings, fireworks, molding, often known as gingerbread, and ornate veneer. Today, these instruments are known as Victorian pianos. Victorian pianos may be categorized into three main types: the upright, the square piano, also known as square grand, and the grand piano. Most vertical piano were uprights with the strings and soundboard positioned vertically. Square piano had a rectangular shape with the strings positioned horizontally and approximately parallel to the length of the keyboard. Grand piano had the strings positioned horizontally, approximately at right angle to the length of the keyboard. Okay. The best Victorian uprights and grand were excellent pianos. They were made with mass-produced, machine-made action parts, but replacement parts for many of those. Next page. Oh, pictures. All right. I mean, I'll prefer reading at pictures than words, because you've seen how bad it is from my reading. Pianos have not been stocked by piano supply companies since before the 1930s. Of the many Victorian pianos still in existence, the best are well worth careful restoration and preservation. Square pianos, despite their massive, ornate cabins, I gotta look it up what that word means, has small soundboards and hammers. They were more appropriate for playing light piano solo and salon music than for heavy concert music, even when they were new. Okay, now we have a picture of a Victorian upright with fancy carvings and moldings. That is fancy. Okay, this a square piano, widely produced in the late 1800s and commonly encountered today. What? These pianos looks pretty in the Victorian setting, but are better playing salon and light classical music of the period than heavy classical music. Is that another way of saying these square ones are shit? Like the uprights are beautiful on the casing outside, but the square ones are just like, because of the design, it's kind of lame. So like, keep it light. It's only for like cosplaying a real piano, but it does looks cool. Yeah. I think we recently bought two of those from Steinway. Might be the exact same freaking model. Is it? Is that Steinway? I don't know. still look the same. Okay, what about this one? A Victorian grand made by Steinway in 1857. What the hell? I have that. No, we have that. Correction. We have a version of that, but doesn't have the original legs. Yeah. I'll show you some other day. I thought it was a D in the beginning. I think the one that we have is like 1865 or something. Yeah. That's interesting. Now, 20th century pianos and beyond. By the early 1900s, the golden age. Aha! I was hear like tuners and pianists talking about golden age. I thought it was a marketing scheme, but I guess it is such a thing. Wait, maybe that's referring to it's a golden age for classical music. Well, let's read it. By the early 1900s, the golden age of the piano, the development of the modern piano as we know it today was practically complete. Square piano production was nearly extinct. Yeah, so they're shit. Excuse my language for those of you who's out there hating me right now. Again, this is only for my own amusement. And it's more like a diary kind of thing that I'm actually reading this shit. Grand and upright cabinets were streamlined, and fancy gingerbread was eliminated. The commercial design had progressed essentially to the point where it is today, incorporating high tensile strings, steel wire strings strung on a heavy cast iron plate supported by strong wooden structures with relatively large hammers and a large soundboard. Okay, so a 1.4 is a picture of a modern Steinway concert grand. We have a lot of those. Okay, the last 5 Steinway square pianos were shipped in 1890. Huh. So the square one was made, the last 5 was made and shipped. That's 1890. That is crazy. So long ago. Okay, page number 3. Look at that picture. 1.5. A large upright piano, typical of those made between 1900 and the late 1920s. I guess it is different, right? Compared to that. I don't know why I was holding the phone. I should just set it on the table at the bottom. Yeah, it's much more stable. Anyway, okay, a common promotional trick in the early 1900s was called an upright grand. Excuse me. Or cabinet grand, because the public tend to think of a grand as being of higher quality than a vertical. These fancy labels are meant to suggest that the piano has quality typical of a grand, not found in ordinary verticals. Upon careful examination, a piano with one of these names bears no more resemblance to a grand piano than any other vertical does. The 1930s marked the beginning of the trend towards smaller pianos. So it started become popular in 1930s. Large uprights evolved into smaller studio uprights. Baby grands less than 5'8", 133 centimeter in the length become more popular. By the end of the 1940s, the manufacturer mass-marketed small consoles and smaller spinets. Is that how you pronounce it? To consumer. It sounds like spinach. Spinach. Spinach? Okay, anyway. To customers who didn't have room for large, boxy uprights in their modern, smaller apartment and homes. That makes sense if you live in a studio. The height of the cabinet and the placement of the piano action in relation to the keyboard determines whether a vertical piano is an upright, studio upright, console, or a spinet. In an upright piano, the action is located a distance above the keys, requiring extensions called striker or dowel capstans to connect the keys to the action. Okay. 20th century full-size upright nearly always have strikers or a long dowel capstan. The studio upright and console are of medium height and usually have the action mounted directly over the keys without stickers. Oh, I was pronouncing it strikers. Stickers? What is that? This is called the direct blow action. Somehow it reminds me of a gun. Direct blowback or something? I don't know. The studio upright, also called the professional upright by a certain manufacturer, looks like a smaller version of a full-size upright with a slanted front. Many studio uprights made since the 1950s are high-quality, durable pianos marketed mainly to school, churches, and piano teachers. The console is a little smaller than a studio upright. Okay, so studio upright was more of a professional thing. Okay, where was I? The console is a little smaller than a studio upright, typically with an action made as short as possible. While still able to sit on top of the keys, many consoles made over the years have fancier cabinets to match popular furniture style. The spinet is the smallest vertical, usually with the action partially or completely below the keys. Most spinet has drop actions and drop stickers extending. Alright, let's see. 1.7. This picture is in most modern console, the action rests directly on the keys. Directly on the keys. In the most modern consoles, the actions rest directly on the keys. Okay. I feel like there's quite a few I may need to revisit. Okay. Oh, we were here. Okay, with the drop stickers extending downward from keys to connect them to the action. Spinet pianos inherently lack the full, rich tone quality of large piano in the bass. Wait, did I read it wrong? I'm pretty sure I read it wrong. Bass? Okay, it is. Due to the short bass strings and smaller soundboard, also the spinet action doesn't feel as solid as it does in a console or upright because of the drop stickers, while higher priced spinets, am I pronouncing that right, are assembled carefully from good quality materials Average spinets are manufactured to satisfy consumers' demand for instruments that are small and low priced. So in translation, cheap shit. Small and cheap. Got it. Exceptions to the drop actions rule includes a few spinets as short as 34 inches that incorporate a Wood and Brooks 90-degree direct blow compressed actions, and certain consoles including 40 inches to 41 inches Baldwin and Barmbach models. Barmbach models made in the late 1950s and early 1960s with drop actions. In summary, a modern piano made since the early 1900s is either a grand or a vertical. If a vertical, it is either an upright, a studio upright, console, or a spinet. Okay, so if a modern piano, okay, so two main categories, either a grand or a vertical. If it's a vertical, there are subcategories of upright, studio upright, console, or spinet, and the size decreasing accordingly. Okay. Okay. Cool. Many pianos made since the beginning of the 20th century were standardized action parts that are still available. A few, however, contain experimental design that are obsolete. Millions of pianos made since the early 1900s, from the cheapest to the very best, still exist today. If a good quality piano is in a moderately good state of presentation, then careful repairs or restoration can bring it back to good playing condition. Most of this, okay, but look at this picture first. 1.A. In most spinet, the drop action is partially below the keyboard. Oh. Okay. So this is a console. The action rests directly on the keys, and that's an upright. Mount above the keyboard, on the keyboard, and this one is below the keyboard. Okay. That's a regular upright, probably studio upright is probably similar to the upright. So that's what an upright looks like above the keyboard. The console is directly on top, directly on the keys. And then the spinet is below. Okay. Let's continue. Most of this book covers the servicing of modern pianos. Great. But the text described specific repairs for Victorian pianos where they differ from modern ones. The book doesn't include information on antique pianos because they are so infrequently encountered. There are so many different designs, and they are careful preservation. It is so important that their repair should be left to experienced technicians who specialize in a historical instrument. So basically saying, this book is for the modern shit. If it's the fancy old ones, don't fuck around with it. You're gonna ruin it. Leave it to the professionals. Okay. Picture 1.9, the length of a grand piano. Okay. So the legs, the casing, I guess, whatever that calls, I'm sure it's gonna be learned out later. And that's the keys, right? And yeah, so the strings are kind of like almost 90 degrees of the keys. Grand piano size. Ooh, okay, we're getting into grands now. As measured from front. I gotta put my phone on the table. As measured from front of the keypad to back of lid, with lid closed. Oh, okay. So from here to here. Baby grand, less than 5 feet 8 inches, so less than 173 centimeter. Grand, 5 foot 8, 5'4" or 5 feet. Can't believe I'm asking those dumbass questions. To 10 feet, to 8 feet, 10 inches. So it's 173 centimeter to 269 centimeters. Concert grand, above and 8 feet 10 inches, so above 269 centimeters. Vertical pianos, as measured from floor to top of the lid. Spin it, under 38 inches, so that means under 96.5 centimeters. Console, 38 inches to 44 inches, 96.5 centimeter to 112 centimeter. Studio upright, 44 inches to 51 inches. That translates to 112 centimeter to 129.5 centimeter. Wait a second. That's interesting. I think in Steinway uprights, it's got discontinued. It used to be have like a 45. I think it's the model number, and then I think it's the same size as the 1098. It sounds like a text form. But yeah, I think those are like 45. That's why it's 45, the name. So technically, that falls under the categories of studio uprights. Okay. And uprights is those ones that's above 51 inches, meaning above 129.5 centimeters. That's what a typical piano size is. This is very, very useful as a reference. All right, now, player pianos. Paper roll operated player pianos were an important part of piano industry from their introduction in the 1890s into the 1980s. Hundreds of thousands made between 1910 and 1930, plus tens of thousands of modern where was I? Wait, I don't know how to pronounce that. Pneumatic players. I'm just gonna skip it. Yeah, made no shame. Made from the 1950s through the 1980s. Okay, so it kind of started 1890s till 1980s. That's kind of easy to remember. 1890s to 1980s. All right, cool. What was I? All piano technicians should understand at least enough about these instruments to tune and service the piano without damaging the player mechanism. The first player piano was actually a piano player with this primitive bulky mechanism built into a separate cabins. My English sucks. Piano players or push-ups, as collector call them today. Okay, that's a cool name. Sounds healthy. Were mainly marked between 1900 and 1905. In the words of Harvey Rochel in his book Player Piano Treasury, the reason that push-up piano players were popular for only a few years is simply that, in spite of their intrinsic worth, they were a clumsy contraption, clumsy to move up to the keyboard to play. Great care was necessary so as not to break off the wooden fingers. Nuisance to have to take away when one wanted to play the piano by hand, and worst of all, a device easily ignored and forgotten when one's moved away from the piano. So basically, this shit is so bulky and so stupid looking and hard to maintain and play. When I guess you can detach them, right? So once you move that out of the way, you don't want to put it back because it's too bulky, but still pretty cool looking. Okay, 1.11 picture. The most popular push-up piano player ever marketed in the United States, the Aeolian Pianola. Okay, alright, that's like almost as big as the piano, at least half of that, right? Look at that. Alright, between 1905 and 1910, the player piano with all the player mechanism built into the cabinet slightly larger than an ordinary upright replaced the push-up piano player. From then through the late 1920s, most piano companies manufacture large numbers of player pianos. These have a vacuum-operated mechanism. Did I say that right? These have vacuum-operated mechanism. That sounded so cool. Was it from Dyson? Vacuum-operated mechanism that responds to holes in a perforated paper roll. Suction is created by foot-operated bellows and stored in a reservoir. This assembly is called the pump and is located below the keyboard. I still don't know how to pronounce that. Pneumatic stack is usually above the keyboard and contains a small bellow called the pneumatic. Okay, for each note in the piano, a small valve that sends suction into the pneumatic when the note is to be played, and a small, light-weighted and flexible pouch that lifts the valve when a hole appears in the music roll, sending atmosphere pressure under the pouch. Hundreds of thousands of player pianos and millions of rolls were made. By the late 1920s, the radio and electronically amplified phonographer replaced the player piano as the premier home entertainment devices, and the player production ceased during the Depression and war years of the 1930s and 1940s. So it was outdated and killed during the late 1920s, and pretty much final nail on the coffin because the Depression and the war. Okay, so basically there's a scroll, right? And have a bunch of holes, and you press these bellows, I suppose, to blow the air or create suctions. Basically make the air going through the holes on the scrolls that will correlate certain sound. I guess that's how it works. The Welt Magnon, I'm definitely not saying that right. Reproducing piano was introduced by M. Walter and Song in Germany in 1904. It played with realistic expression via specifically recorded rolls and mechanisms using vacuum-operated pneumatic system. By 1914, the Welt Magnon and its two most important rivals, and the Ampioch and Dual Art, were installed in the most brands of grand and upright pianos in the US until the early 1930s. The finest pianists of the era recorded a large library of classical and popular music for them, allowing their performance to be heard today exactly as they were played more than 100 years ago. Much more rare than ordinary player pianos. Enough reproducing pianos still exist today that is concise. What? How to pronounce that? Conscientious. Okay. Piano technicians should take the time to learn something about them. Okay. What did I just freaking read? So I guess this is one of the most famous brands back in the days, making those player pianos. Welt, Margon, whatever you pronounce, and this too. Okay. Anyway, keep going. We're almost there for the first chapter, I think. It's getting a little dense for me, mostly because I cannot pronounce like a third of the words. Feels stupid, but this is why we're doing this. I know I'm stupid, that's why I'm learning. An intermediate type of piano known as expression piano was also made during the heyday of the pneumatic player piano. This type played with some expression, but was not sophisticated. Oh, I know that word, but never really trying to spell it. Not as sophisticated as the full reproducing piano. During the late 1950s, the public rediscovered player pianos, and several companies began manufacture them again. Many old players had quit working, and it become all too common. And it become all too common for piano technicians to rip out and discard the player mechanism for no more reason than to make the piano actually more accessible for serving. Ironically, technicians destroyed many fine quality old players while the public was eagerly buying inferior quality newer ones through the 1960s and 1970s. Since the 1980s, digitally controlled rather than pneumatically operated version of the reproducing piano, which use solenoid. I don't know. Okay, I'm getting a little flustered. Breathe. Okay, let's do this. We gotta finish the first chapter. And probably we should go back and mark all the words that I can now pronounce and look it up. Where are we? Here. Controlled by solid state circuitry and played by digital data or become popular. Major brands including the Steinway Spiral, Yamaha Disclaver, Piano Disc, in new Mason Hamlin pianos and units for installation in any pianos, and QRS Pianomation for any piano. Some offer let me hold it this way. Some offer real piano solo with orchestra. I don't know how to pronounce. Accompaniment synchronized on audio tracks, and many digital reproducing systems are also capable of recording live performance, and thus can be valuable teaching aids. Okay, to fixate notes of pianists and piano music from the golden age, it is important that the best of the pneumatic reproducing piano are also preserved, particularly because their mechanism will be restored long into the future. While many electronic devices have a relatively short lifespan, as beautiful as the finest of the modern instrument performed, the author wonders whether it will be possible to repair their solid state mechanism 25 years after they were made. At alone hundreds or more years from now, will be with pneumatically played instruments, given the availability of appropriate leather, pneumatic cloth, tubing, and so forth. So basically, the author is arguing the new shit is great, everything is electronic, but it's more fragile, it's easy to break. Whereas the old school players, they're physical, there's tangible being made. There's like tubes and bellows and whatever that mechanism is. You can use your hands and actually make it work, even hundreds of years. Not hundreds, like many years later. Whereas if you have like a broken electronic version, it's hard to fix. I guess that makes sense. To a certain degree, probably certain technician that into like electronics can fix it easily as well. I assume a normal person probably with 2 hours of training will get a pretty good idea how to fix the older player system, whereas new one probably take months if not years of training. That's my assumption. Okay, where were we? Oh, here. From the late 1800s through the late 1920s, the coin-operated piano, also known as their heyday as the coin piano and the electric piano, and I don't know how to pronounce that freaking word, containing piano and additional instruments such as, another word I don't know how to pronounce, organ pipes and drums, were popular in public places. Original examples of these made before the early 1930s, typically in the most popular orchestration, is that how you pronounce it, are thought after by collector. Oh, I feel like I should circle that. That's a key point. Let's go back. Original example of these made before the early 1930s, especially the most popular orchestrations as thought after by collectors. Their restoration should be attempted only by someone who has enough experience to do this without damaging any of the parts. Player piano servicing and rebuilding the piano. The companion volume of this one by the same author. Oh, so you have another book? Is that what you mean? Covers the repair and restoration of pneumatically played automatic pianos. It does not cover the repair of modern, ever-changing digital systems that sometimes become obsolete in less than 10 years after they were made. A little jab, but okay. Did we look at this picture? 1.13, a Steinway dual art grand reproducing piano of the 1920s, which plays automatically, focus, with a lifelike expression, similar to digital controlled piano of today, but using pneumatic technology. Collection of something. Okay. Now look at this cool thing. 1.14, a Seeberg KT keyboardless orchestration containing piano, mandolin attachment, xylophone, and straps. This was one of the most popular orchestration, no, it doesn't sound right, ever sold in the US, but relatively few exist today. Mental note, see this, buy this, I guess. Okay, contemporary trends. Since the late 1970s, the market for the piano has changed dramatically, with the electronic keyboards largely replacing the least expensive, lowest quality piano. Most manufacturers who specialize in the mass marketing of inexpensive piano have gone out of business, or their trademarks names have been sold to Asian piano manufacturers. Simultaneously, demands for large studio upright increased enough to enable several companies to pull higher quality large vertical back into production. Oh, okay. So many electronic keyboards and digital pianos are now in use that musicians often use the term acoustic piano to denote, I guess, a conventional non-electronic instrument. Electronic pianos. Beginning in the late 1950s, several companies marketed electronic pianos with mechanical actions that were cheaper and more portable than acoustic pianos and could be played either through loudspeakers or headphones. Some brands stayed in tune longer than acoustic pianos. Since their introduction, the most popular brands marketed in the US were Baldwin, Kawai, Rhodes, Wiltshire, and Yamaha. Every time each incorporates a mechanical actions with hammers and dampers. The tone is produced by tuned reeds in the Wiltshire strings, but no soundboard in the Baldwin, Kawai, and Yamaha, and tuned bars in the Rhodes in each brand. The vibration is sensed by electronic pickups and then amplified. The same basic operating principles, repair and regulating technique for the keys and actions of acoustic piano are applicable to the mechanical parts of mechanical/electronic pianos. Repairing the electronic components is beyond the scope of this book. Since the 1980s, digital piano has gradually replaced the earlier mechanical/electronic pianos. They have become more versatile, less expensive, and more widely marketed. Most electronic pianos have mechanical actions that simulate the touch or feel of an acoustic piano, including the capability for soft and loud playing, and some high-end models even have wooden keys. Most offer several sounds such as various piano tones, harpsichords, and so forth, controlled by button. Digital keyboards or electronic keyboards are synthesizers. Typically don't have mechanical actions, but imitate many different instrument voices, electronic tones, and sound effects. Many are MIDI compatible. Okay, I was wondering what that means, but it explains later. Because they contain electronic components, they serve as their servicing is also outside of the scope of this book. Okay, MIDI, or musical instrument digital interface. Okay, it sounds kind of like HDMI. Is a technical standard that allows electronics, musical instruments, synthesizers, audio equipment, and computers to communicate with each other. MIDI is a technical standards. Yeah, like USB and HDMI. We haven't seen these pictures, right? We kind of overlooked it. 1.15, an extremely rare Cremona J orchestration. Should I even, I should just put some like a sound effect, like cursing sound effect to bleep myself out. 1913, restored by the author's shop in 1987. Okay, that's a casual flex. It's Egyptian style casing with beautiful art glasses, carved falcon, and how to pronounce? Graphones. Contains pianos, mandolins, attachments, organ pipes, orchestra bells, drums, and straps. The value of these beep depends on meticulous restoration to original appearance and functions, and it is important for the technician to become expert at piano work, pneumatic work, and throughout understanding of their original design and function before attempting their repair. Basically, he's showing off his own work and saying, don't fuck with it unless you're a professional like me. And this part is just saying electronics is taking over the lower end of the smaller vertical pianos, and he doesn't know how to fix or servicing them. Okay, so that's it. That's for the chapter 1. 8 pages, painful 8 pages. I'm pretty sure if you're listening this far, it's 56 minutes. It's an hour. It's actually more interesting than I thought. So we are chapter 1 done, and chapter 2, inside information, the name of parts and how they work. Okay, that's actually what I want to learn. Oh, you look at that. Okay. Kind of getting a little excited. Major parts: cushioning materials in pianos, the soundboards and bridges, pin block, the plate, down bearing, the tuning pins, the strings, arrangements, key bed and key frame, the keys, the key tops, hammers. These are all the major parts, okay? And it's gonna be, I don't know, quite long, but I'm gonna get through that. So part 2 is the parts and how they works. Part 3 is evaluating all pianos. I think most people are interested in this chapter. Is it worth buying or repairing? Okay, I'm very interested in this part as well, but I think this is very good foundation for what I need to learn. These are just like good to know, cool knowledge. And chapter 4 is cleaning and major repairs, fixing worn and broken parts. That's somewhat useful, I guess, especially for the cleaning part. Yeah, removing loose screws, holes, removing broken screws, cleaning a piano. 75. Let's have a little peek. I am interested. 75. Okay. Cleaning pianos. Before repairing regularly and tuning an old piano, clean it thoroughly to remove dirt and objects that have accumulated inside. Okay. This is very awesome books. You know what? I'm gonna try to because all these pictures in black and white. I'll try to get more pictures. I'm actually, because company that I work for, as a piano dealer, I probably can get my hands on some of the older stuff as well. I know there's one guy in New York that has loads of these, the scrolls. I think, what's his name? Richard or Rick from Piano Exchange in Long Island. He has a lot of those. Uprights, wait, I'm not sure if he has upright, probably does, but he has a lot of those grand pianos that has the scrolls. Why am I doing advertising for my competitors? But he does though. I like the guy. He's super knowledgeable when it comes to these kind of stuff. He has like a whole room, probably hundreds of these scrolls. Yeah, I probably have one of those, but I just didn't realize that before. Yep, overall is very informative. I mean, this part is very informative, especially this section, size reference, very useful. If anyone is gonna, do a screenshot here. You done? All right, cool. Yeah. And it's kind of easy to navigate. I especially like the part that he kind of categorized, just modern pianos, just two types, bigger types like grand and vertical. And among vertical, there's like a studio. There's uprights and studio uprights, and then console, and then spinet. Is that what it calls? Yeah. Yeah, I like this part. It's very logical. Like either grand or vertical, because vertical is either upright, studio upright, console, or spinet. Yeah. So grand. These are the fancy shit. Modern ones, there's grand piano, there's upright, and console, and spinet. And uprights and studio uprights are very similar. The actions sits like above, right? Above the keyboard. Yeah, actions above, and the console is probably direct on the keys, and the spinet is drop action, which is below the keyboard. All right, cool. So that's what we learned. I think that's what's important to me personally. That's actually useful. Yeah, that's my little recap. And so fancy shit, art shit, but don't mess with it if you're not a professional, which I'm not. So I'm just gonna stay away from those ones. Probably have some historical value, but that's pretty much it. I'll show you another day. Actually, I might be able to show you tomorrow from another dealer's warehouse. You probably have the exact model of that. And I'm pretty sure we bought two of these from Steinway. Not from Steinway, like it was manufactured from Steinway. We bought two of these. So I know for a fact we have that one, but missing the legs and the music desk, because it's supposed to be hollow. But this style, yeah, we have exact same model of that. Don't have that. We bought two of these recently, and plenty of that, and a lot of uprights. So it is an interesting business, very niche, but interesting. Wow, it's been an hour, so I'm gonna call it a day. I'll try to continue doing this tomorrow, but eventually I want to finish the whole damn book. Good night.